When Alex has an idea, it's usually a good one, and I tend to go along, which is how we ended up driving from Seattle to Banff in 2 Tacomas a couple years back. But when he said he wanted to drive Mahindras in Nevada, initially I was skeptical. Tractors in the desert? Thankfully, that's not what the Roxor was at all.
Mahindra licensed an older Jeep design decades ago, and it's been tweaking it ever since. An old Jeep is exactly what the Roxor is, a body-on-frame SUV with solid axles front and rear. Like a classic Jeep, it has a manual 2-speed transfer case, and its rugged 4-wheel drive system has stood the test of time. It'll go anywhere a classic Jeep can go. And in our case, that means a ghost town in the desolate plains a few hours outside of Reno, Nevada.
There's no mistaking the Roxor's origins. This thing looks exactly like a Jeep, only the grille has 4.5 slots instead of 7. The 2-seater came standard without doors, but packed full of accessories, including a winch and, since this Roxor can tow 3,490 pounds, a sturdy hitch.
This is Roxor's new automatic version. It's also a 4-seater. For the US market, the rear bench will be a 2-seat operation. It's relatively comfortable, and you can see the roll bar design is a little bit different than the 2-seater over there. The 2-seater over there has a 45-degree angle rear bar. This one has a right angle rear bar to protect the rear passengers. But otherwise, it's relatively unchanged. They didn't have to change the body or the frame or the wheelbase to accommodate the rear seat. You know, this reminds me of the ZR2 in a sense that, you know, the gas ZR2 is way better in the soft stuff, in the sand, in the mud, high-speed stuff, and the diesel version was just awesome for, you know, just low-speed crawling and big hills. And I'm feeling like the Roxor that's really its strength, is sort of low-speed, slow-speed kind of stuff. Well, since we're bouncing along this 2-track, I gotta say, the ride quality is shocking. There's really not a lot of travel. You got solid front axles, front and rear. It's based on 40s suspension technology. And you know, it's not a Raptor. We're not talking long travel Baja stuff, but just for bumbling around, it's really comfortable. It's absorbed some big hits without really jostling us too badly. I'm not quite sure what I was expecting, because it's not like there were a lot of continuation licensed Jeep UTVs on the market, you know, running this kind of suspension and driveline, but the ride quality really is a high point. It's the overland stuff where the Roxor really shines. Doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, but it does a lot with what it's got. It's got excellent range. It's got diesel torque and diesel economy. All of those things make a big difference if you've got a lot of ground to cover. In a place like Nevada, where there's wide open spaces, you can go hundreds of miles between towns or gas stops, and that is where a vehicle like the Roxor excels.
While the 4-seat and automatic versions are new for this year, what makes all Roxors unique are the automotive style controls, something you don't find in other UTVs.
If we're talking about the Roxor's greatest strength, I also have to talk about what is quickly becoming apparent as the Roxor's greatest weakness, which is a turning radius that would make oil tankers blush. We're bouncing along a wide 2-track, some open plains, and here the turning radius is not really a problem. But on the tighter stuff, on the hill climbs, if there's a sharp turn in the middle of a steep hill climb, you might have a bit of a problem in the Roxor. My understanding is the turning radius issue can be fixed with aftermarket components, stuff that's not supported by Mahindra. If you go down the road of lifting the truck, changing the track, or using wheel spacers, that will help with the turning radius issue, and it'll help with ground clearance. I also have to talk about the automatic shift calibration for a second. Now, this is a production automatic Roxor, but it sounds like the transmission shift point mapping is not finalized. It needs a little work. It's slow to downshift when it really needs it, and you can lose a lot of momentum. We saw that on the dunes. We crested certain hills and stopped dead in our tracks. it's not a problem that is unsolvable. It's something that you can fix pretty easily by remapping the software. That said, the automatic transmission issues were really only an issue in the soft stuff. Out here, dusty dirt tracks, gravel, even the hill climb that we did earlier today. Not a problem for the automatic, especially if you select gears semi-manually.
The Roxor has a lot going for it. It's got classic looks, capability, and for a UTV, an incredible tow rating. Mostly because, really, it's an old Jeep. But it's not all perfect. The diesel engine is really old school, making decent torque but only managing a wheezing 62 horsepower. That makes the Roxor pretty darn slow. But by far, the biggest downside is that while it might look like a classic Jeep, the government considers it a UTV. Unless your locality allows you to plate a UTV, you're going to be stuck towing it to the ORV park or trailhead, and that is especially frustrating for something that looks like a Jeep. That said, nothing on the market feels like a Roxor. The classic looks, the all-metal body, the gruff diesel, it makes all the other stuff out there look a little toy-like. You get the thrills of a vintage Jeep without some of the real-world hassles of actual vintage vehicle ownership.